business owner, do you recommend taking a paycheck or keeping the money in the business account and taking members' draw as needed?
You pay yourself all the time, whether it's an actual check or you're taking a draw from your account. Don't fall into the same mistake that too many people do, where they just keep reinvesting everything back into the business, say, I'll pay myself later, I'll pay myself later. The whole point of having a business is to make yourself money. It's to be profitable. If you're not including yourself in that equation, you're not running. You can't pass your business on to somebody else and expect to make the same margins. You can't. It's self-destructive, and you're slowly going out of business without realizing it.
Here's another thing though. How do you know how much, like, because it is healthy to have a monthly personal budget. You know, we all have a rent or a mortgage. How do we determine that number? And would you just suggest maybe every other week a paycheck or withdrawal or once a month, or how do you figure that out?
You keep your personal budget separate from your business budget. It's just like your business. You have your personal life and your business life, and that's why we use LLCs and S corps and things like that, so that we have the corporate veil is there. The corporate veil is essentially it's a protection that you acquire from being a specific entity. So, you know, if you are a sole proprietor or in a partnership, those aren't recognized as different business entities. So you are liable for anything that happens. When you have a LLC, an S corp, etc., those will protect your personal assets in case your business gets sued or your personal liability is removed from that situation, unless you pierce that corporate veil. If you do that, you start mixing your personal money with your business and vice versa, or you start buying things with business money for personal use, they could find loopholes in that and then come after the whole enchilada instead of just coming after your business.
Like, don't go to the grocery store with the business credit card.
Exactly. But to get back to your point though, like, how do you pay yourself? It's just like that. Like I said, if you need $2,500 to live, then you figure that out. Like, you will pay yourself every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it may be. That's budgeted in your business side as payroll to yourself or as a draw that you're taking from the business. And your personal stuff is your personal stuff. You're not going to pay, you know, your boss doesn't come out and actually say, I'm going to pay your mortgage. They give you a wage to do that. The beauty about having a business, though, is like, not only do you could pay yourself a wage. It doesn't have to be a big wage, but it's something to pay for all your personal bills. But then you are also, you could get profits from your business. You could take those draws from the profit from your business. That's the whole point of having the business. So to sum that all up, in my opinion, keep everything separate, figure out your personal budget, figure out your business budget, make everything work, but always pay yourself.
What is your ideal ratio of maintenance to landscaping to hardscaping?
I throw
I
rocks.
think that depends on whatever you want to specialize in. I don't think there's an ideal ratio.
What I guess, what is it for your guys' businesses?
We are probably 70% hardscape, 20% stormwater, and then the rest is maintenance.
I'm 89% applications, and the rest is mowing.
Yeah, I'm like 75-25 mowing and fertilization, weed control, but trying to grow that organically. Like, I'm not trying to promote it to be like a fertilizing only business. It's as new clients come in and get quotes, I go ahead and quote them for everything. And even if they ask for one, not the other, like mowing or fertilizing, is, hey, you know, we also offer this. Oh, give me a quote for everything. I didn't know that sometimes. So that's how I organically grow that. My whole point is I just want to help be the full lawn maintenance for all of my clients, so they don't have to necessarily go somewhere else. If they already have someone that they're happy with for whatever it is, then I'm happy to include them in, you know, a yearly agreement for those other services that they're asking for. But yeah, it's mainly mowing with the fertilization weed control that's growing. Hopefully it'll be 100% both. We'll be able to mow and whole account.
We got a comment to make sure you see a real body of water while you're down here.
Yeah, you mean that
Lake
I
was,
Tahoe.
don't know. When we asked Paul
Yeah, that's
where Mexico is.
it's
Oh, the Gulf of Mexico.
No, Paul thought he could see Mexico.
From the balcony,
Oh.
yeah, you can see it.
No,
You can see
cannot.
Mexico from the
You can see-
balcony?
If you can see the sun and moon, why wouldn't you be able to see Mexico? See across the Gulf.
Oh, I don't know, maybe
I don't
in
think
your
it
mind.
works
Not flat
that.
earth.
what? It was a very clear morning, and he was
Yeah,
very
there's lots of
optimistic.
puddles. There's lots of puddles of water here, and then in Florida, and there's an ocean, not too far from here. So, but real quick, I wanted to apologize for all those folks over on YouTube. The initial content was unlisted, so you'll be able to watch it. YouTube automatically makes it unlisted so that you can test it first.
yeah.
But it's going to be on there. So once this is over, you can go watch that one. I'm not going to go through the whole intro all over again, but it's there. It'll be on it is on my channel, but it's still unlisted.
The best parts
Until
are on
after.
that part.
It's still there.
Oh, okay.
They just have to go rewatch it.
Tell
that's
people
all.
how to do it, because I don't
So
know.
we're live? still?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
you're live.
Okay.
So
Naylor, you
I
actually
was-
have a question on here.
Oh,
Sweet.
yours.
Sweet. Go ahead.
At what stage in your business as an LLC should you choose to be taxed as an S corp?
Ooh, this is a good question for you, Britt.
Yeah, I was
When
gonna
my
say that's
accountant told me so.
Exactly.
I'm not an S corp, so ask these guys.
We switched over to an S corp 2 years ago.
Do you file as an S corp or are you an S corp? Because you can be an LLC and file as
We
an
are
S
an
corp.
LLC that files as an S corp.
That's the advice that I've always heard.
So
It's the easiest way to do it.
Brittany, do you hire sales reps for quoting and proposal, or do you do it yourself?
we are hiring, but
Oh,
we are.
nice.
But current, I feel like that was a baby announcement or
Oh,
something.
I was saying. Yeah. See, that's growth right there. That's growth.
So yeah, it is growth. No, we do everything ourselves currently. So you typically, I will take the phone call, Caleb will run the estimate, and then I'll do the design work, and then he'll bid it out. So that's the
Well,
current
that's
process.
because you have a team out in the field that gets to
Right.
work
Yeah,
for
we,
you.
Yeah,
we
they're not-
rarely go out in the field. So and you know, like the guys understand they can't be like we can't be both places. So it's really important to have a good team in the field if you're gonna grow like this.
Grow your team.
Do you raise your rates every year?
Hell yeah.
We do. I mean, we received so many emails from all of our suppliers this year. Price increase 5%, price increase 7%. Delivery doubled.
Mhm.
We had a supplier that was $150 delivery, now it's $300. So for
That's
the same
crazy.
distance. So yes, I'm not taking that out of my monthly
Right,
paycheck.
profit,
So
yep.
someone's got to pay for it.
John, you laughed. What do you typically, like, on a normal
Yeah.
year, raise your rates? Like, what percentage versus what are you raising it here in 2022?
Okay, previously, we were doing, it wasn't much, it was only about 4.5%, 5%, because that was how our overhead costs had increased, so it wasn't very much. In 2021, at the beginning of the season, we had a letter come out that was from several of our vendors that were increasing between 7 and 8%. Then about 30, 45 days later, we had another price increase, which was like a 12%. And then we had another one about mid-season, that was another 12%. And it's very difficult, it really makes you eat crow when you go to your clients and you tell them, I know I raised my prices, but I need to raise them again because I can't get these materials, because of the supply chain.
So is this for
This
mowing or landscaping?
this would be for applications.
Okay.
And what I mean by applications, that's lawn care, so fertilization, weed control, fungus, growth controls, and anything that would kind of blanket in that category. So typically, like I said, about 4 or 5% increase. But like this past year, you got to remember, if you have an 8% increase and a 12% increase and another 12, you're not looking at a 30. Hey, you're not looking at a 30. You're not looking at a 34% increase. You're compounding that interest because of all the other hikes. So it really came out. I think it came out to about 52%. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it was somewhere around 50% in increase that we had to do by the end of the season. And so this year was 2021 was a unique year. I doubt any of us, even those that have been in business for 30 years, hi honey, they've ever had to experience that much of a hike. So when we're looking at our numbers for 2022, you just have to adjust appropriately because you don't want to be paying out of pocket for any of these services or any of these supplies. You want the customer is paying for this because this is something that they want. So unfortunately, all those costs go to them.
So when you raised it mid-year, was that because your product cost went up and you're like, hey, I'm not.
Right. When we issued our estimates and pricing, we were under the impression that that was pretty much going to be it. Like we wouldn't see another hike. But because it did, and the only reason we couldn't get all the product in stock at the time was because supply chains had shut down for a little while. We waited 2 months to get stuff, and it came in just in time for the next application. Our applications are 4 to 6 weeks, every 4 to 6 weeks. So it took some products took 12 weeks to get in. And at that point, when we purchased it, it was like the vendors they told us, they were like, we have to charge you more. So it's hard, it's very hard to kind of tell people like, hey, this is going to be more than what you were originally promised.
So now, from now on, are you going to put something in your estimates that say, hey, if the price goes up for us, we're going to have to pass that along?
We already had that cleared up with our contracts and everything, our terms of service in the beginning of the year. We had it in those terms that there is a possibility that these products can go up, so that would affect the final price. And we have wonderful clients, and they took it very well. We really only lost, I think, maybe 2 clients because of that, which is pretty impressive considering everybody gets affected by these things. And, it's like, hey, you know what? I got to pay my electric bill. Do I have the electricity on, or do I have a nice looking lawn? They're going to go for the electricity. So, but
I want to argue, well,
argue.
I want not argue, but I want
Let's
to
argue.
Let's argue.
Let's argue, man.
Let's have a heated
I want to
debate.
bring up that, I think there is another side of it. So I agree with what John's saying. You got to raise prices. Like the fertilizer costs, all that went way up this year. The other side of it is, I think like my actual chemicals and fertilizer, that's about 20% of my revenue. Okay, so if fertilizer goes up 30%, that's 30% of what was 20%. It's not 30% of overall revenue, it's just 30% of one part. So you don't have to necessarily raise prices 30% to match a 30%. I probably lost people on the math.
So you're saying, like, if you charge $100 an application, you don't have to raise it 30% of the 100?
Yeah, like, so if the application was was $100, and the chemicals for the year average out to $20, okay? And the chemicals went up 30%. So now the chemicals are not $20, they're $26. All right. So I really went up 6% of the 100, not 30%. You know what I'm saying? So I can go up 6% on my cost and cover the increase of the chemicals. Now, the other part I want to mention about that is, if I'm doing hardscapes and I'm getting $20,000 jobs, and a lot of that is material, then people that are going to spend $20,000 probably would be willing to spend $22,000 for the same job. That's 10% increase. In chemical applications and mowing, I think it's much more competitive, and so if you go way up, you run the risk of losing something. So what I did, I went up, but I didn't want to go up so much that it ended up affecting my route density, because I think my efficiency in my route, if I had 20 yards in this neighborhood that I've been working on for 5 years to get 20 yards in this neighborhood, and all of a sudden I jacked my prices up, now I've got 14 yards in this neighborhood, I just cost myself 6 really efficient yards that I didn't even have to leave the neighborhood for. So I would rather go up some to cover my costs, but I'm actually hoping that some of my competitors went way up, and that their customers fire them, so that instead of having 20 yards in that neighborhood, now I've got 30 yards in that neighborhood, because I think the efficiency is more important than a couple extra bucks on the price chart.
That makes a lot of sense.
That wasn't an argument, that was just a.
That was another.
That's what I was talking about.
That was
No,
No,
I
that
can
was
hear me.
perfect,
That was an
man.
additional side.
Because, because I could see where that could be confusing when I was saying it. It's not like a raised price.
Is that what you do too?
In a nutshell, it's kind of
Okay.
like that because we operate at a certain profit margin. Instead of saying, "Oh, we're marking things up," we're looking at the margin. The margin's different than markup. People get those terms confused so many times. When like I don't know what guys down south do, but I could sit there and say, "I'm operating at this percentage or this margin," and like Jason would understand that, and he'd be like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter what we're charging; it's just the margin that we're operating at." So it's not like I'm jacking up the price like 50%. So like $100 app went to $150. It's just
Okay, I'm glad we clarified that.
Well,
Yeah.
I was confused. I thought he went up 50%.
I'm like, man,
No,
he's
no,
balling.
I did not go up 50% because it's essentially just what Jason said, except I didn't say it right. So that to maintain the margin that I wanted to maintain at, I had
Okay.
to make up the difference there. So for most clients, really, it was like it was like a $10 increase, which is substantial when you start. When you say $10, one person, not that big a deal. But when you have hundreds of people, that's thousands. So.
Is anyone NALP certified? If so, does it bring value?
It is.
And what is that?
The
National Association of Landscape Professionals.
Yeah, but before we, I also just wanted to say, now more than ever, it's critical to know your numbers,
Mhm.
right? Because all the prices are going up, and if you didn't know anything about your numbers and your profit margins and all that, you're really in a pickle. Like this is the time that you really need to understand. Like clearly, Jason knows his numbers. Clearly, John knows his numbers. So you guys need to know your numbers so that you know how and what to mark up by how much and so on, so you can keep being profitable and keep growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What signs do you look for on the initial conversation with a potential client to avoid wasting time?
If they say that they are looking for estimates, we do not go meet with them.
Like multiple estimates?
Yeah, we're just calling for we're just calling around to get some estimates on what this 10 by 20 patio would be.
And what does that mean? It just means we're shopping
It
for
means
the
they're
cheapest
shopping
price.
for the best price. Or you go out there and they say, we had so-and-so company out, they gave us this design, but it was this price, we thought it was a little much.
Oh.
No, sorry.
Yeah, pre-screen your
So that
people.
kills it for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, for me, from a maintenance standpoint, you get so many calls all the time, and everyone's looking for the lowest price to cut your grass or even treat your yard. I literally don't even answer my phone anymore unless it's a customer that's in my contacts. I let the voicemail pick up because on my voicemail, it's a specific recording. It says the neighborhoods that we're in, the services that we offer. If you're in those neighborhoods and looking for those services, leave a message and we'll call you back as soon as possible. And that's exactly what we do. And this filters a lot of people out. Some people still don't listen to the voicemail and they leave the wrong they leave a message anyway. Or some people are actually so desperate right now. That's how crazy things are and how things are exploding in our industry. They leave a message anyway, begging me, like, I know I'm not in those neighborhoods listed, but we can't find anyone. If you can't do it, can you please tell me someone that can? Or we're next to the neighborhood. We're right down there. We're 10 minutes away from the neighborhood that you're in. It's like, wow, where have we come that people are like so desperate to outsource these things so that they can find time to do other stuff, and they can't find enough lawn and landscape professionals to do it, because hopefully we're all starting to raise our rates, know our numbers, and getting that route density.
If you're doing stuff like spraying yards and mowing grass, the profits can be fine, but they're not so good that you can run around giving quotes all the time. So for me, it's geography based. Do you live 5 minutes down the road in a neighborhood I'm already established in, and my time out of my day to give you a quote is about 10 minutes, then yes, I can do it. Now again, if they say, hey, we want a $20,000 paver job, I might, it's a little bit different, but
Right.
for what we do, mowing and spraying, you got to be super efficient. So You kill 2 hours driving 30 minutes to
Oh,
go
yeah.
waste your time and give a quote, and they say, well, and you get there, well, they say, well, we're gonna get a few more quotes, and we'll make a decision in the next couple of days.
Just to cut their grass or put some fertilizer down. I'll one up that too. There's a lot of software out there that you can just satellite measure all the properties remotely, so you don't even have to go out there. And if it's off a little bit, you know, you get to the property for the first time and there's, you know, an extra couple of mulch beds you gotta edge around or whatever, like something random like that, you can just adjust the price. You can even tell them that in advance or put it in your quote, like this is an estimate.
That's why it's an estimate.
Right, it's an estimate. You know, the final price will be determined when we get there in case there's a trampoline, a swing set, a pool, and a fence that wasn't in the satellite picture. You know, and a bunch of dogs running around ruling the backyard.
Or you find out that the thing's on a cliff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's like a switchback to get down to that lower level, and you couldn't tell that because of the aerial photo.
Right.
But
Or they built a multiple tiered backyard with patches of grass and steps.
Yeah,
and you gotta keep
exactly.
carrying mowers up to each patch.
that's happened to me before. It was miserable. So
I think the other side of it too, of just being we're antagonistic today, but I think the other side is if it is somebody that is in the right neighborhood and they call, I want to be the fastest one to possibly get out there. I mean, they might text me or leave a quote on my website or something. I call them back immediately, and they oftentimes say, "Wow, that was fast." I say, "Yeah, I can be out there in 5 minutes to look at your yard." And I'm trying to lock them up before anybody else even looks at it, because a lot of times, again, this low budget spraying, mowing stuff. They had been planning this backyard patio out for 2 years. It's something that like, oh, I got a letter that says I need to get my weeds taken care of, so I just called the first person that popped up, and you first person there gets the job.
that's not being antagonistic or anything, man. You're not. You gotta remember, we're on the same mindset, so you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. You know, you know, if you do run into those crazy terraced lawns, charge appropriately. Know your numbers, and if you're like, oh, it's 10,000 square feet line, it's gonna take us 20 minutes, it'll be fine. And then you find out it does have those obstacles and things in the way. You have to figure that price out and go, you know what? It's gonna take us 40 minutes to do this one lawn. We have to charge appropriately to recover all of those expenses. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid of it. It's better to like lose the client because your price is accurate than to actually keep doing it and losing money week to week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to swap out with Jeremiah?
No, I'm good. Y'all can go.
You sure?
I'm good.
I'll be out there tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
How do you charge the price if there's dog poop in the lawn?
We call that the PETA tax. And it's usually $15, you know, right off the bat, and it's in our service agreement. So we tell people,
What's the PETA on acronym?
pain in the ass.
I mean, if you got one that's crazy, then that's, you know, but most of the time, I don't care. I got rubber boots on, I'm out there spraying, you know, I ain't worried about that.
I'm not too worried about it most times, but when you get to a house and they got 8 Dobermans,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm charging you more.
Yeah.
But that happens by me, so that's why we have to.
Blessings Property Manager says, how should you raise prices if you're already 10% more than your competition's new rates, even if you're still making money in 2022 by not raising your rates?
You just have to stay ahead of the curve, guys. You just have to stay ahead of the curve. Maybe raise it 2% or 5%. You don't have to necessarily do 10% every time.
Yeah.
You don't have to do a full percentage, but you also have to make sure you're providing the most value. If you're already the most expensive person out there, you just make sure you're worth it. Make sure you're worth that $80 an hour, whatever it is that you charge. And if you're constantly providing value and extra value, if you're out mowing the yard and you see a downspout's disconnected, maybe you keep extra downspouts on your, like downspout adapter connector things on your truck. It's like, hey, I saw this, I just want to let you know I took care of it for you, no charge. Like, constantly do that and you can be the highest priced person around.
We're pulling their trash bins, you know, that's an easy one, it's
Oh,
great.
that is. I think people really love that.
They love it because they're like, oh, it
Bringing
didn't
them
blow
their
away.
paper, all that stuff. Yeah, but under promise and over deliver. You know.
Just go the extra mile
Yeah.
and treat these people like humans and
Right.
do a
Instead
little
of-
something
instead of
for them.
always going up in price, go up in value to fulfill that price. You know, that will separate you from everybody else. I mean, just think about our industry. There's so many like times you hear they don't return my calls, they don't return my emails, they never know when they're gonna show up, they don't do a quality job when they're here. I thought mowing was easy, like not to take it away from anyone that not, I mow all the time. I thought it was just something that was kind of a natural thing, but apparently when you're lazy, nothing's easy, right? You just don't do a good job.
And like what Jason does by getting back to people as soon as possible, within like a couple minutes sometimes, people will pay a premium for it, because there are so many times where they go through 5 or 7 companies that they call and nobody gets back to them, gets a quote, or gets out there to their property.
You are your own competition.
Yeah.
You are your biggest competition.
Most people, they're surprised when I pick up the phone. They're like, "Oh my God, you picked up the phone." I'm like, "Yeah, how can I help you today?"
Yeah.
And they're just like, "I called 3 other places. You're the first one to pick up." I'm like, "You should have called me first. And you would have had this issue." It's my failure as a marketer that you didn't call me first. I'm going to work on that.
Are any of you guys purchasing supplies in bulk right now?
Hell yes, man.
So I don't really have the room. It's been really difficult, but for aeration, I did get a massive pallet of seed, and then after that, I got a massive pallet of fertilizer and all these things, and then I just whittled away at all that when I was done, and they were actually returned a bunch. If you overbuy, then they'll take some back. So I was able to do that to get room back in my storage unit so that I can have all the equipment properly set up to get ready for the season again. So if you have the room, it definitely makes sense to buy in bulk. You're usually going to get discounts. But right now, the reason why I was even thinking about it was because my landscape supplier was saying, hey, the prices are going up. You should get it now before they go up. We have X amount. You got this amount last year. Do you want to increase that by 20% or 30%? What do you want to do? We'll drop it off for you. Pallet, half pallet, whatever. So that's very enticing, and you're going to save money if you do have the room. So you just have to weigh that out. If you don't have the room, there's nothing you can do. If you can squeeze it in, you can give yourself a headache by stepping over stuff to save money. I don't know. We don't want to trip over nickels to save, what is it? Trip over nickels to save a penny, or whatever the heck. You know what I'm
Nickels
saying,
to save dollar.
Yeah.
It's
Tripping over.
You get the
Trip over dollars to
Hey,
save
we have a
nickels.
question here. Let me pivot out of this.
Yeah, so we don't want to waste our time, trying to nickel and dime all that. So
Okay.
whatever works.
I will say, we saved $20,000 this year
Yeah.
By buying bulk?
buying in bulk, because our guys weren't going to Home Depot and everywhere to go pick up stuff, and all that wasted time back and forth from the job sites. Everything was at the shop. They loaded the truck and they went and performed their craft.
I would recommend
Yeah,
that.
because we always think about just the discount from the
Right.
place, but we don't think about the time and the labor.
Yeah, well, from the landscaping perspective, 100%. I know a big landscaper in my area. They eventually now they have a big shop, so they just have mulch delivered in bulk, and they've got all these bins set up for different types of mulch and different types of rock and all that. So now the guys can just load up their dump trucks right there at the shop and go to the properties instead of having to go all the way down the mulch yard and get it and then go to the properties. So if you have the space, you can do it, right?
And to help save on money for the buying things in bulk, we rented another storage unit and put in the shelving that could hold like tons. What am I looking for? What's the name of it? Anyway, the big shelves at Home Depot. I got one. The pallet shelving. And it's a pallet stacker. I don't have a forklift, but we have a pallet stacker that could lift up a full pallet and set it down on top of another one. And that's how we get it up on the shelf. So we have, 3 rows of material, and it's taking up the same footprint, but, we got like 10-foot ceilings. So why not optimize that space?
Yeah.
Got a question?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You don't.
Well, I was just gonna say, the only thing you gotta be leery of is for the people that are dealing with chemicals, you just have to keep an eye on, they do go bad after a while. Usually when they're sealed, they're good for a couple of years, but if you open one at the end of the season, the efficacy of that product starts to deteriorate. So buy what you need and maybe buy a little bit more, but don't buy too much because this stuff does spoil. Some products go bad, like grass seed. Grass seed
Right.
loses its.
I mean, you can make sure wherever you're getting it from, maybe they'll return it for you, like mine did. I think should be a common thing, but just double check before you order a
They
big
restocking
pallet.
fee.
Yeah, you pay a restocking fee, but maybe instead of having.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, J House Lawn Care asked, how do I combat low ballers and sell myself to customers that are used to paying $80 a month for maintenance? Here in California, the services include monthly trimming of bushes and hedges as well as gardening.
Low ballers will get rid of themselves. Price high, do a great job, market yourself, brand yourself, be the best that you can be. And you're gonna find, the right clients will find you.
Some markets are gonna be better than others, so if it's all beat down in
Mm-hmm.
California, you may have to look for other services that are, if I'm out there, I'm installing artificial grass for people, or something, making up whatever's in style in that part of the country, so. The market may be beat so far down that it is more challenging. I'm not saying it's impossible, but.
We got a long-time listener, first-time caller, Dylan Stevenson, Solo Cuts.
He was there last night.
Yeah, friend of the show, Dylan Stevenson up there. At what revenue amount do you feel is when you really started seeing good profits at the end of the year?
Who's that to?
Wait,
Dylan Stevenson asked.
That's probably
I know
just-
who he asked.
I mean,
Anybody.
like our first year was profitable.
I don't know, it took us a long time to get our crap together.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can be profitable no matter what, as
Yeah.
long as you know your numbers and you have it all dialed in. I mean, some argue. I made a YouTube video about this a long time ago that I made more money profit when I was solo at a certain point than when I had employees. Like there's
Our
different.
sales don't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's different levels, and there's gonna be times where you're making less profit until you get past that breaking point of growth, and then all of a sudden your profits start increasing again. There's gonna be those different phases that you have to go through, but you always have to know your numbers and do what's best. Sometimes you have to take a step back or, reevaluate, this is what I really need to do. Maybe it's not working out, maybe the market's trash, like whatever, maybe another service like Jason said, but you can do it from day one. You should do it from day one. Profit first. Focus on that 100%.
Just kind of piggybacking off what you said, where you made more profits with when you were solo. Like when you what happened?
Someone said Brittany's really tan.
Sorry.
When you were pricing things as solo,
Yeah.
you may not have had the same overhead as you start to expand, because if you come into it and you budget and you have you figure out what your break-even points are for where you're at right now, and you don't include growth into that, and go, look, we want to be here, we're going to replace this piece of equipment, you don't plan for those things, you're going to, no matter what, when you, like say you add another employee to help with efficiencies, if you don't plan for that, your pricing isn't going to support a bigger business. So make sure that if you're just starting out, it's a really bad idea to just base it off of like, oh, I got a 21-inch mower, I got a trimmer, I got a Honda Civic, and I can do all this and still make money. But then if you really do start to take off and it starts to scale, there's so many things that you don't even realize, like just having additional insurances and equipment replacement and just overhead. Like you might have to have a landline and somebody answering it. There's a million different things that you could have in there.
Let's do some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, what do you guys think about lawn painting?
Lawn
Yeah.
painting?
Painting the
I've
lawn
painted our
green.
yard before.
I'm not a big fan because
Well, like, what if you have a party and part of your yard's dead?
well, that's different. But like people are doing their whole lawn because it's crap, and then it's like it's got a really bad they're just taking the shortcuts instead of improving the soil or improving the greenery.
Has anyone here done lawn painting?
Yeah.
No, but
I-
I mean,
It's,
Alex does it, Trifecta does it.
I've heard in the past, like when there's big droughts, like in California and some other areas, like, and there's nothing to cut, nothing to fertilize, like, what are you gonna do? I've read articles about this. Guys
Yeah.
would like change their whole setup, and instead of spraying, they would put dye in their tanks.
Sure.
They'd go spray in yards, and it lasts however many weeks or
Do you
months.
do that?
yeah.
I have the green dye. It does, it's hard to make it look natural, and I don't, in our area at least, there's not enough demand for it. But there are people spray painting pine straw, dyeing the pine straw, so the pine straw fades out over 6 months, and they go, instead of put out new straw, they go dye the straw.
Oh,
You can do that with mulch
We
too, I
sprayed
bet.
our mulch,
Yeah.
and it actually works. Like if you're looking for, I would say if you're a commercial place and you need to like spruce it up in the middle of the season or
Yeah.
something, that's totally doable.
When did you decide to go full-time with your business?
How are we looking, Jeremiah?
It's good.
How did you know when to go full-time?
I mean, I
I
feel like
broke my finger. I was working and I started to have issues with where I was working, and I was already planning on it, but I ended up breaking my fingers, and my job let me go, and then I still went out and said, well, I guess I'm going full time, I gotta make this work. Instead of getting the boat close to the pier, I just jumped right in.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, like, the best answer, like the right way, you would think, the right way is to get the boat as close to the dock as possible, have your ducks in a row, but a lot of times it ends up being like life circumstances that throw you into that. But at least if you have a plan, like I was already doing it part-time, and then my boss sat me down in my office and said, he looked at the pictures of my family in my office and said, you either need to choose them or this place, because you can't do both.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I kind of had no choice in my mind,
That's
so
the
I
pep
quit.
talk of the year.
So
Your
that's when I
family
went full-time. That's when I went full-time.
Amen.
Jason, they want to know if you're going fishing with the lawn care nut this year.
I would like to.
He's coming in tomorrow.
He's not that great of a fisherman.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
We've got about 9 more minutes left. How do you guys keep great employees? Other than good pay, do you offer anything else?
We offer holiday pay, they get 2 paid just days off, and then they all get vacation.
Yeah, I'm struggling with this myself. I'm learning from everyone and asking and trying and just, it's different than retail management. I mean, I manage people constantly, but it's just a whole different ballgame, different type of industry, a lot harder to work outside, and you're intimate one-on-one, sitting in the truck all day, back and forth through all the different properties. It's a different thing. I can still manage people. I can still, do whatever needs to get done, but I'm still figuring out probably like a lot of you guys. So I've actually asked the Almonds this question a lot. I'm always asking Caleb, what's new, what's going on? I'm going to ask him again on the podcast this week. Like, so what's going on? How did it go this season? What's going on next season? You're looking to hire some folks, so it's a moving target.
Yeah, we use a reward system where we got this really cool app that allows them we set out some priorities for them. Once they hit these little goals, like, hey, you know what, you make sure the trucks are always cleaned out, something small like that. And then there's rewards that they
That's
can
pretty
take
cool.
themselves. It really is cool. They have, when somebody hires on with us, I always take the time to like kind of go over their goals with them, and I try to help them achieve those goals. And I've lost too many people to their goals, but I'm happy because they're bettering their lives. But the rewards thing too, instead of me saying, hey, here's a hamburger, or think for hamburgers or whatever, they get to choose how they're cashing in those rewards. They could use it for an instantaneous, hey, you got a free lunch, or
So it's like a little kid reward point from school.
exactly. They could save and bank them, and I have one on there they could save up points and get a $5,000 paid for vacation, which nobody's achieved yet, but I'm hopeful. But everybody keeps cashing it out for all the slushies and all the other smaller things. So we also we're trying to offer the healthcare and all the other incentives and bonuses that most other
Wait, time out. One thing that I just remembered that goes along the lines of things that I take for granted because I just do it naturally. Like I try to keep my stuff clean, have a nice clean uniform, branded, all these things that I just take for granted as it's just the way it is, that it should be anyway. And I find out that's not the case with a lot of other companies. But one of my employees a while back, when I followed up, our quarterly check-ins to see how he's doing, what he likes, and go over performance, what he likes, doesn't like, all that kind of stuff, my opinions. And one thing that he said that he liked was that all of the equipment works.
Yes.
All the time. It always works. And if something's wrong with it, we fix it immediately. He said it's nothing more frustrating than the other companies that he's worked for in the past on a 100-degree day in the middle of summer, and you're cranking and you're yanking on that trimmer string, right? And you're just yanking and yanking. You just want to throw that thing in the garbage. Yeah, sorry. You want to throw that? I was mindful.
Yeah.
You want to just throw it in the garbage. So little things like that, compound and make a big difference. I just always keep my stuff clean and organized and running well because I don't want to deal with that either. So that just leaks off onto my employees when I got to that level. So
Real quickly, if it's your first year going full-time in lawn care, what would be the best marketing strategy?
I would get on Facebook and call around to all the local lawn care businesses if I was even if you're mowing, I would call the other mowing people, because half the time they want to get rid of some of their customers, or they're capped out. I would definitely, if I was mowing, call the spraying people. If I was spraying, I'd call the mowing people and tell them, hey, I mean, I had a guy call me a couple weeks ago. He said, hey, I'm trying to grow my mowing business, so just keep me in mind this year. So just call around the people who are already getting the lead. That would be your first year. Now, over time, I think just having a good website that ranks on Google is going to pay off, but that might take a little time for that to pay off.
Yeah, but and then when you have Google websites and all that, then you have somewhere to send the people to. You
Yeah.
know, the other relationships that you make, they can just send it to you. Jeremiah?
What types of insurance do you have on yourself in case something happens to you and you have to leave the business?
I just have general liability on me and workers' comp on me and my employees, and then general liability for my business. So, and we have our own health insurance that we had to get outside of. You know, when you have a small business, it's hard to get a company insurance. We have to do the small business insurance, which is not always the cheapest. But I do.
As owner operators, it's a good thing to consider disability, short-term
Yes.
disability insurance. Should you say you're an owner operator, you break
Cut
your
your
leg,
finger
or
off.
cut your finger off, you
Yeah.
break your leg, I mean, you have that backup. I mean, you're gonna have to replace yourself with someone to do it, but you at least have backup income as needed.
I have an ample emergency fund for the business and for my personal use. So there's two separate emergency funds. Business emergency fund covers deductibles on insurance and things that explode. And then for myself, it's
I think this is more for the almonds. Getting in the first year, going into hardscapes, and all I have is a wheelbarrow, hand tools, level, and a 1500 Ram.
you could make it happen.
What do I do?
Cool.
Just do it.
I guess that's what the question
Yes.
is.
Just start digging
Just
holes.
go.
Get after it.
Just go, man.
Watch all the videos
There
that
you
you
go.
can, talk to all the other hardscapers that you can, gather all the information you can over the winter, and go build a small pad for grandma, or build a small trash can pad for yourself over the winter.
Hardscape
The
Academy.
Go to
hardscape.
hardscapeacademy.com. I'm trying not to
You got to do a shameless plug.
Plug
try not to
Log it.
watch everyone else's videos, and if you don't find me,
Go to hardscapeacademy.com. They're gonna hook you up right.
No, but seriously, just go practice in your backyard and do a practice pad. And when you get your first client, just be honest with them. It might take a little bit longer than you're expecting, but I'm going to do this right, and I have the right tools and everything. So just do what you can.
Hey, you guys come up here so you can get on YouTube also. This is all about collaboration. Paul, Jeremiah,
I'll
Blake,
switch
you
out.
Uh-oh. Guys are behind the scenes here. We want to get you on camera. Come on.
Thanks for all the likes, guys.
Thank you guys.
Am I on YouTube?
Yeah, you are. You're on YouTube stumbling, bumbling. Come on, man. So we got Paul Jameson, Green Industry Podcast, also Green Industry on YouTube, right?
Yes, sir.
Got Blake, B&B Lawn Care. Where are you at? You got podcast, YouTube, shout it out.
Yep, the BB Lawn Care Podcast, at BB Lawn Care KC on Instagram and YouTube.
Jeremiah, go ahead and
Jeremiah
plug yourself.
Jennings, Growing Green Landscapes podcast, Growing Green Landscapes on Instagram as well.
You're going to be on tomorrow night?
Yes.
What, on Instagram?
Yes.
Instagram Live?
Yep.
What's your Instagram channel?
Growing Green Landscapes.
Growing Green Landscapes?
Very simple.
And Paul, you got some books to plug, right? Go ahead, man.
Yeah, can you hand me one, Savannah? 101 Proven Ways to Increase Efficiency and Make More Money in Lawn Care is now available on where finer books are sold.
Yeah,
That's
lots
true.
of great stuff. And hey, those of you that are listening and can come to the meetup, right? You guys shout out Paul, shout out the meetup on Saturday in the Tampa area for those of you local folks.
Yeah, we'll be at Armature Works Park at 2 p.m. in downtown Tampa, Armature Works Park at 1 p.m.
We'll be there too, but
Saturday.
And we're going to be giving away 2 lawnmowers. If Paige Jack can put them together.
That you have to build yourself.
2 Toro lawnmowers.
Should we keep them in the box? No, never mind.
No, we're going to put them together for him. But Toro gave us 2 really heavy-duty mowers, but they came in a box, so we have to figure out.
we need tools.
we need tools.
I have.
And we've got a box full
Where's
of
my butter
Paul's
knife?
journals. We've got a box full of journals that we're going to give out to you guys. First come, first serve.
Yeah.
Right, Paul? What's a journal? Say it one more
Yeah,
time.
the journal's The Diligent Shall Prosper. It's a goal tracker in a journal where you can write down each morning what you're thankful for 3 goals for the day, and then there's just plot to journal. So research shows if you actually write down your goals, not to get Jordan Peterson on you, but your subconscious starts to follow that. So it's called The Diligent Shall Prosper.
Oh, that got a lot of hearts.
Thank you. For real?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called The Diligent Shall Prosper.
Probably Caleb or something.
Oh yeah, it's probably Jordan Peterson himself.
Let's see. He
Caleb-
says Jordan Peterson's name. Does he get a lot of hearts?
Caleb's at Jordan Peterson event right now. So
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
And a huge shout out to the Hardscape Academy
Yes.
and Entrepreneur.
And Entrepreneur
guys.
Academy for sponsoring the Hype House. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Almonds and Fullerton.
thank you guys.